If there are two things that people are deeply passionate about, it's sport and entertainment. And I'm glad that I have both of you all to speak about how women are turning the tide in these two sectors and also give us a business and branding perspective. I'll start with you, Jinisha, first. After completing your MBA, you started Capri Sports in 2023. What was the idea behind it?
So there's like a quick clarification in my bio. So Capri Sports owns about 5 teams today in commercial sports. So we own a team in women's cricket, men's cricket, kabaddi, kho, and very recently we've started our journey in women's football. So I think we're not there yet in terms of cracking a big sponsorship deal, but we're on our way. I have been part of the Capri Global Group for a very long time, and there was a huge opportunity that we were seeing to to be a part of the growing sports industry. And more than looking at IPL, which has, of course, been one of the most successful products that have come out of India, we were looking at what's next, right? So Kabaddi has been an incredible sport that's come out of India, and you see many people in corners of India, smaller cities that play the sport. And we realize that there is an opportunity here for us to become a part of that. Same with Kho, you'll find a wonderful group of people in this country who play this day in, day out. Women's cricket obviously has been on the rise recently. Cricket, of course, is one of the most loved sports in the country, but women's cricket has been sort of ignored for a very long time. That was until the under-19 team won the World Cup a few years ago. So we started in sports seeing that there is a blue ocean where beyond men's cricket, not a lot of people were paying attention to it. And we said, let's get into it and see what we can build from here.
So why is it important to give a fillip to sports other than cricket? Kabaddi, Kho, for instance.
So cricket, if you look at it, actually is a very expensive sport to play. So if you're talking about the masses, and today IPL is an entertainment format, and they have built an incredible sports product that people love watching. But when you look at who's playing cricket, there is an audience that honestly hasn't grown beyond just the boys. With women's cricket, we're hoping to change that narrative and actually get a lot of girls to experience cricket as well. But when you look at the indigenous sports of India, which is Kabaddi and Kho, you'll see that in various corners of the country, in every school, Kabaddi and Kho are sort of part of it. And all it needed was a way to make it a good TV product, a good product where you want to you want to buy a ticket, you want to go into the stadium and watch it, because it has such energy and such momentum. So not to say that cricket is sort of getting any lower because Kabaddi is growing, but there is so much interest for people to go beyond cricket because it is an expensive sport for most people to experience and to play. And we feel like newer sports need to come up because there is a huge market in India for different audiences to experience variety of sports.
Mandvi, you began as a journalist before moving on to the other side. What were some of the changes that you've seen in the entertainment industry over the years, and what are some of the things that probably surprised you or even shocked you?
To begin with, when I was a journalist, and thankfully to my editors, then two of them very brilliant people, we were forced to research. We couldn't go wrong with our facts. So it wasn't a quick conversation piece and you just put out there because, everybody's very digital these days. We weren't back then. We were still very primitive newspaper people. But it was very deadline and facts oriented. Now it's deadline, it's facts, it's curating a brand. So a lot has changed, but not so much. It was a good transition for me, and I felt very organic also because of the opportunities I got later in life. So I think I could just slip into it. I was very comfortable.
What were some of the changes that shocked you when you moved to the other side?
I think when you're a journalist, nothing shocks you after that. You've kind of seen it all. So, but not shock me. I was very pleasantly surprised that all my colleagues in public relations and other streams, apart from journalism, you kind of discount yourself when you're a journalist that you're the only one sitting with the facts. That's actually not true. There are people out there, whether it is Jinisha's job or my job or Rohini for that matter. I feel that there are a lot of people out there with a lot of facts, a lot of acumen, and it was a pleasant surprise for me, the kind of work people were putting into the job.
You're responsible for creating stars out of actors. Tell us what all goes behind it. What's your strategy?
Here's the thing, everybody is different. Like, you have different beats in journalism. Somebody's doing crime, somebody's doing business, somebody's doing sports. It's the same for every person, whether it's an actor, an actress, a technician, a director, a producer. Everybody's demand of the journey is very different. They select their path. So once they've selected their path and they're very clear about their career graph, how they want to lay down the path, where do they want to be? Because not everybody is wanting to be a star. Sometimes they just want to be a great actor, be known for that. So you kind of have to have that clarity, and then you lay down the foundation for that, and you curate it in a way that it feels like that person doesn't have a publicist. It has to be so organically done and so smartly done. Because when you make your strategy so obvious, then you're going to be writing next, like the PR needs to calm down. So it has to be smartly done.
Jinisha, she spoke about everyone being different. What has been your experience of unearthing raw talent from the grassroots? What is the kind of platform that one can provide so that they become pan-India stars, global stars? What is the support that one could give them?
I'm glad this panel is happening after all the wonderful panels before this, because they spoke so much about where talent is coming from in India across industries, and sports is no different. We have amazing talent which is coming out of much smaller towns and cities in India. And what they need today is the right ecosystem to be able to grow. I think in sports especially, you have to start young to be able to nurture talent, right? So today we feel like there's a gap in the pathways available, and there is definitely a shift which is coming, especially with the kind of performance India has been having at the Olympics. So you can see that there are a lot of people behind the scenes that are trying to find talent early on, get the support, and for an athlete, to be honest, the support goes beyond just on the field. They need a lot of support in terms of mental stamina to not give up, because if I could be so bold, I would say that sports is probably an industry which faces the most amount of failure, and very publicly. So success comes very, 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 very few times for an athlete or for a team. But your failure happens more so, and that's the journey that they have to take. For India to continue to be on the path that it is, I think it needs an entire ecosystem, right from corporates, brands, HNIs, the government, everybody to join hands to say that we want to create more pathways, especially for young female athletes to succeed. And I think some of the work is done, but there's a lot more to be done.
Mandvi, you were a publicist for Shah Rukh Khan as well. What stood out for you when you were dealing with him? And what does one have to keep in mind while handling a mega star like him?
I still don't know why he hired me. So, but it was a blessing in disguise, because I was very conflicted whether to be a publicist or do something else in the film industry. That was very exciting. But I think when you have a boss at that stature who is not treating you like I'm the superstar and you're just an employee, I was a colleague to him. And I think it takes a very well-educated, very secure human being professionally to do that. He's a very knowledgeable person. So I genuinely feel that I have come out of the Shah Rukh Khan University very well learned. So that was a blessing in disguise. He still remains a mentor. And I think the one thing we have to learn, not just handling a megastar, but just about everybody, you go in completely prepared to be your 110%. You cannot have a checkout day, oh, I don't feel like doing it today. You have to be there on ball 100%, because your failure reflects on that brand, that person. So you need to make sure that you're thinking 5 steps ahead and letting that person be who that person is, because if they start thinking about your job, then you're failing at every step.
Yeah, you described him as a secure man, but I asked you a question because there are also fragile egos in the entertainment industry. How does one tackle those then?
I think one, I've been working for too long, so I don't handle them anymore. But I've been blessed. I've been surrounded by very amazing professionals, so I haven't had to do that. And after working with a man like Mr. Khan, you get spoiled. You kind of are constantly looking for people who are highly professional, driven, have dreams to, kind of chase. So I've very, kind of consciously been working with people who want to be somewhere. So I've kind of steered clear of people with egos. I'm blessed that way.
Jinisha, you on the other hand work with the women players who probably and most often don't get the kind of attention and fame that their male counterparts do. How does one build a women's players brand in such a scenario? I mean, and have you learned anything from global examples?
No, this is a great story, and I'm so glad that Mandvi is here because I think I might have to take her card after this because there is definitely a systemic issue here that we're very used to telling women's stories in the perspective of rags to riches. That she came from a really small town. Look at the struggle she's had, and while that's important, that's not the only narrative arc that we have today for athletes. We're seeing incredible brands work with 16-year-olds in the US who are picking up talent for basketball, picking up talent for football, very, very young. They're launching shoes with Nike at a very young age, right? So the way that a country values its athletes, I think that's one perspective that we're trying to change. With cricket specifically, I think although it is one of the most loved, most adored, most watched sport in India, and it competes very high globally as well in terms of following. With women's cricket, we are looking at how we can work very authentically with brands who also have similar stories. I think even looking at L'Oreal today and what we're doing here, right? It's a great example for when you're saying, I'm worth it, and how athletes can also be building communities around their stories. So there's a lot of work to be done. Again, I think the industry is just starting to warm up to what's happening in the world of women's sports.
Yeah, do you see women-focused brands doing a better job of promoting women athletes, and are they coming forward to, doing that?
Not as many, but I'll name one that we worked with, and we had an unbelievable experience, which was K by Katrina, and it's a makeup brand, and the first thing they told us was the players don't need to wear makeup, you don't need to show our product, but the story of K by Katrina is the tagline is it's K to be you. And she said, all I want to see is how the players want to express themselves. Don't put my product in there. And to me, I was really taken aback because, we're making decks to show them that this is how we can do product placement and this is how we can promote. And they were like, that's not what we're here about. So I think that's one example. And I'm hoping that in the years to come, we can actually unearth many more brands who understand the power and the depth that athletes can bring to their brand.
Mandvi, today a celebrity is also a brand. So how does one maintain an actor's persona at a time when they're under constant scrutiny and they can be trolled for the smallest of things?
See, I think one thing we have all realized is that eventually our goal is to reach the audiences, right, with our work. So our endeavor is that. But what happens is, in the journey to be an artist, one has started being a good influencer while you're aiming to be an actor or a female actor. You kind of don't forget that. Who are you pleasing eventually? You need to be very clear about the audiences that you want to reach. And secondly, do not fake it. At any point, don't fake it. Even if you get trolled for being raw, vulnerable yourself, give it time to people and don't let it bog you down. Because I'm sorry, there are a lot of people out there who are wanting to be you, and because they cannot be you, it's rather easier to pull you down. So let it happen. It is going to die down because today you're getting trolled, tomorrow somebody else is, because it's no fun to get you trolled. Or for that matter, if there is something that really needs attention, then you kind of address it. We've seen Alia addressing the trolls. We've seen other actors from the industry addressing the trolls. But it's only need basis. It's not every time. So you do not indulge in fallacies of other people's minds constantly. Ignore as much as you can.
My final question to you all, we hear about a gender-inclusive world. Let's talk of women-centric films, pay parity. What are your views on all these things, and do you see the situation improving on ground?
I would say that maybe a lot of people in the room don't know, and we can take a lot of pride in knowing, is that India is one of the first countries to take pay parity for female cricketers, which has been incredible by BCCI. I think it's it's a stance that you take that although women's cricket is just on the rise, we are willing to look at pay parity. So that's been incredible, and I hope that more federations across the world start looking at that model. But at a company level, I think we take this very seriously because we're seeing that today, what if I want to go out and source a female team manager for my girls? I can't do that, which means I have the onus and responsibility to train more women to be able to take up those positions, because its talent may not be ready, and that's not an excuse. So right from how we hire internally for Capri and also who we work with through our sports seasons, we try to get as many women into the room, train them up, and make sure that they're actually ready for all the opportunities out there.
Mandvi?
I think the conversations have started. We still need to see the change, and I'm not going to deny that. Having said that, a lot of people are working towards it. They're working towards women's stories. They're working towards making sure that they're more entertaining, because that's the crib everybody had, right? I mean, you're not getting the box office collection for us, and hence the gap. But my request to everybody who is hearing this, or maybe just kind of skipping it still, please think about it. If you make the story good enough for people to be entertained enough to be seated in a theater, then the woman doing all the heavy lifting there on the big screen deserves the pay. Please go ahead and give it.
Well, thank you so much. It was lovely listening to your insights. Thanks once again for your time. Thanks a lot.